President Milei returns from his short foreign tour. New inflation figures put smiles on government faces. Soup kitchens are running low on supplies. And some good news from Gaza. Welcome to A Bloke in Buenos Aires, presenting news and views in English from the capital of Argentina. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. President Milei is back in Argentina after his visit to Israel, Italy, and the Vatican. The Israel leg of the trip saw a tour of some of the battlegrounds from which hostages, including a number of Argentines, were snatched on October 7th last year. But the visit was also something of a personal pilgrimage as part of Milei's ongoing conversion to Judaism. The president's next stop was at the Vatican, where he was granted a private audience with Pope Francis, who is also a native of Argentina. This meeting was to try to mend fences, as the two men have very different views on many things, with Milei being insulting to the point of downright abusive towards the Pope during last year's election campaign. The hour-long meeting seemed to go very well, perhaps helped by Milei's gift of a box of Pope Francis' favourite Argentine biscuits. The final stops of the tour were short, separate meetings with the Italian President and Prime Minister. These talks were to lay the groundwork for new bilateral relationships between Argentina and Italy. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni took office in October 2022 as the head of a far-right government and will no doubt be a friendly ally during future negotiations with the European Union. The new inflation figures for January have arrived, and it's rather a mixed bag. The government is celebrating a fall in the monthly rate to 20.6%, down almost 5 points and 1 point better than expected. But annual inflation continues to rise and is now at 254.2%, and salaries are a long way behind, with a monthly rise of just below 9%. A lot of this inflation is being driven by cuts to subsidies for food, energy and transport, and this is expected to go a lot further. All of this means that people are buying less, which is slowing the economy, and unemployment is expected to rise. Poverty in Argentina is over 40%, and part of this is in-work poverty, where people with salaried jobs simply don't earn enough. Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, ex-president and ex-vice president of Argentina, has been unusually quiet recently, but decided to use this moment to publish a long letter outlining her opinions on the economic and social effects that Milei's current austerity policies would likely cause. However, it's uncertain how relevant Cristina's words are, since many see Argentina's current economic woes as having their roots in her administrations. Soup kitchens are a common feature of life in the poorer areas of Argentine cities. There are calculated to be some 38,000 such places across the country. These places distribute food to the poor and destitute, but also to those with jobs that simply don't pay enough to feed their families. With the slowing economy, there are more and more mouths to feed. Cuts to the subsidies on fuel and transport are hitting the poor hardest, and with a freeze on government spending on public works, unemployment is rising. However, supplies are running low, and the community dining halls, as they're more politely known, are finding it harder and harder to feed all the hungry. A big reason for this is that the government has not distributed supplies to many food centres since December. For a long time, soup kitchens have received their government supplies through intermediaries, such as social movements, which Milei calls poverty managers. These groups often use their positions of control to manipulate those who rely on food aid, such as demanding that they join demonstrations. The new government says it intends to cut out these middlemen and introduce a system of direct aid to the soup kitchens, making sure that help arrives where it's really needed. However, this new system has yet to appear, and food centres are having to survive on donations. Meanwhile, in Gaza, on Monday, 2 Israeli-Argentine hostages were freed in a raid by Israeli special forces on the city of Rafah. The men had been kidnapped on October 7th last year and were part of the 130 or so hostages believed to be still held in Gaza by Hamas. Many Palestinians were killed during the rescue operation. It is unknown how many were civilians. A number of Argentines were among the international mix of men, women and children seized by Hamas during the October 7th attacks, most of whom have now been accounted for. The 2 Argentine men are being treated in a hospital and are said to be in good condition. Whilst the rescue is being widely celebrated, there are still calls for a ceasefire to allow for more or all of the remaining hostages to be returned to their loved ones. President Milei was recently in Israel, but had already left for Italy by the time of the Argentine hostages' release, so missed a heroic photo opportunity. Every news report has some kind of bias, and it's often frustratingly difficult to get a balanced view. Ground News is a website and app that gathers all the world's media in one place so you can compare coverage. Ground News lets you see the story behind the story using data-driven analysis that looks at things like the political bias, reliability and ownership of news outlets. To get a 40% discount off a subscription to Ground News, click on the link in the description below. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to see more similar content. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee in the link below. And until next time, que tengas un buen día.